Some of you that may have watched one of my former videos, Is Rocket Lab a Good Investment, might remember me saying that Astra just can't seem to get it up. Well, I'm literally about to eat my words on this one, as Astra has finally gotten it up. Yep, that's right. On their last launch, they finally reached orbit, and to commemorate that milestone, I will be eating my hat. Also, if you remember, Peter Beck, the CEO of Rocket Lab, once said that they would not be building a bigger rocket than Electron. Well, he definitely had to eat his hat on that one because they are now building Neutron. So join me as I join the ranks with Peter Beck and finally eat my hat. Well, this should be fun. So on this episode of Stock Trek, we will be having Stock Wars, Rocket Lab versus Astra, and which one I think will probably win. Now, some of the key differences that I would like to go over between the two are, first, let's start off with vertical integration. Now, I think vertical integration is very important in a rocket company. And as far as Astra goes, they're not quite vertically integrated. They rely on suppliers for parts for their rockets, as well as Firefly, I believe, for their engines. And Rocket Lab is vertically integrated. So that's one of the key differences between the two. Another difference is that Astra is going for more of a cheap rocket route that are not reusable, and Rocket Lab is going for a more recyclable 3D printed route where their Electron rockets and their Neutron will be reusable. And speaking of reusability, Rocket Man Elon Musk himself said that reusability is the holy grail of rocket companies and turning a profit. So I think that Rocket Lab definitely has an edge on the fact that it is reusable. Now, some of you may think, well, Astra launches cheaper, they're cheaper than Rocket Lab to launch, and, well, that may be true to a certain extent, but here's the thing that I want you to think about. Do you know how when you go to the gas pump and you look at that little price, hasn't it gone up a bit? And also, when you go to the grocery store and you reach for some of your favorite food items, have you noticed a bit of a price change with that? That would be called inflation. Now, the thing that I am a little concerned with Astra, some of you may not be, but it's just a personal thing. I'm wondering how inflation could impact Astra's launch prices. Because if they are relying on outside suppliers for these materials, all the outside suppliers have to do is raise the prices, and then Astra might not be as cheap as they once were, or they're going to have less of a profit margin if they try to keep the prices the same. So it's that price movement that I think concerns me a little bit as far as the cheap rockets. Whereas with Rocket Lab, they are internal, they 3D print it, they make it on their turf, on their terms, with almost their prices. Inflation might affect them a little bit, but I don't think it would be as hard of an impact on them as it would be with Astra and their components. Some of you may disagree with that, and that's fine. This is just something that's kind of in the back of my mind. Another thing is as you saw before, I was celebrating Astra's launch into orbit for the first time, is their launch record. So Rocket Lab has done more launches. They are more reliable. They have done 22 launches. They've put 107 satellites into orbit, whereas Astra has done, well, one. So as far as, being able to gauge that, it's kind of early in the game with Astra to figure out, if they're going to finally achieve their goal of daily launches. I will hand it to them though. Right now, with all the lockdowns in New Zealand with COVID, Astra could have a little bit of an upper hand in that, they can launch from anywhere, especially in the US, maybe with less restrictions to affect their launch cadence. However, Rocket Lab does have a facility in Wallops Island, Virginia, that is yet to be in use. And when it does, maybe it'll increase their launch cadency. So we will have to keep an eye out on that. Another difference between the two rocket companies is that Astra is solely focused on the small sat launches. They have the small lift vehicle, and then Rocket Lab is focusing on both small lift and medium lift capable payload rockets. So Rocket Lab has a little bit more of a variety for launching as far as this different sizes, especially with Neutron coming out to do the medium lift. Also, Rocket Lab is doing not just lower Earth orbit, but they are doing interplanetary missions. So whereas right now Astra is kind of focused on the lower Earth orbit, getting the small little satellites up, so they kind of also have, different reaches basically in space. And what's really cool about Rocket Lab is they could possibly carry humans with their new Neutron rocket. And I know some of you might think, oh, well, just because it's bigger doesn't mean it's better, which I'm not saying it is. However, I do believe it will open up more contracts with NASA. And who knows, maybe even civilian space travel in the future, and maybe even be a little bit, along the lines of SpaceX as far as, human travel. And I like the idea of that. I like the idea that they're broadening their horizons, and they're going beyond what most other rocket companies are doing besides SpaceX. Now, as far as market cap, there is a bit of a gap there, and for good reason though. So Rocket Lab market cap is about hovering near, around, maybe over 7 billion, whereas Astra's market cap is more along the lines of 2.7 billion. So the market caps are definitely different. Astra, might appear to be more of a value buy compared to Rocket Lab. However, keep in mind that there's a reason why Astra's market cap is that low, okay? They've only done one successful launch. The question is, can they do multiple successful launches without having a hang-up? Moving forward, we really need to see, is Astra going to be reliable? They're capable, but are they reliable? And only time is going to answer that. As far as what I think on investing in either Astra or Rocket Lab, if you don't already know my stance on Rocket Lab, I own a huge chunk of shares in my portfolio with Rocket Lab. While I confess I do not yet own Astra, the market is a bit frothy, and if you watch what happened on their last launch, the share price of the stock went flying. There was a lot of excitement around that launch. However, the stock tanked very fast. There was a lot of people that were just booking their profits, getting the heck out, and calling it a day to jump in maybe at an even lower share price. But, me personally, I wasn't ready to quite jump in yet. Will I be jumping in the future? I might have a small position in Astra, but my main position, I feel, more safer in Rocket Lab. You have to keep in mind, with these SPAC companies, a lot of times, they have high highs and low lows. So even while they may make an achievement, like reaching it into orbit the first time, they still need to have revenue coming in. They still need to show reliability. They still have a lot to prove. Do I think they're capable of proving it? I think companies are capable of doing many things as long as they don't give up and as long as they have enough cash to sustain the ability to keep going. You know, as far as Astra, if they don't have the cash, they can always tap into the markets just like any other stock. I'm not selling Astra out. It should be, you know, maybe a small part of your portfolio. If you have a bigger risk taker type of a person, then, you know, you can have a larger position. It really is personal. It depends on what you are capable of, you know, handling as far as risk. Um, I'm the type of person where I tend to buy stock, and if I think it'll do well in 5 years, then I hold on to it. I'm not really a turn and burn type of a person. Everybody has different investing styles. There really isn't a right or wrong way as long as it works for you. However, I do recommend, if you are investing in Astra, invest in what you're willing to lose, just like with any other stock. Don't be throwing in your whole life savings, you know, on a whim and be like, okay, okay, please make it, because that's not investing, that's gambling. So my advice, if you like both of the companies, which I see different sides of the coin. You know, I see how Astra has the really neat ability for possible daily launches one day, if they can achieve that. I see, you know, Rocket Lab with their interplanetary missions, their successful launch rates, their vertical integration, you know, maintaining that lower cost rate.
Another interesting thing is that Astra recently applied to have their own constellation. And not only that, but they've also had some recent hiring from Apple to Google to other interesting people coming from big companies, big tech companies. And I think they could have something up their sleeve, and I'll definitely be keeping my eye on that. But Astra isn't the only one who has their sights on having their own mega constellation. Rocket Lab also has that in their future plans. And taking it a step further, beyond the mega constellations, Rocket Lab is also into space systems and components. So they expect up to 40% of their revenue to come from space systems pretty soon. And I imagine that that's an awesome idea, as it gives them multiple streams of revenue and not just relying on vehicle launches or satellite information.
And they're a bigger company that has been around a little bit longer. So I do see more stability with Rocket Lab, but I also see some possibility with Astra. You know, it's kind of like David and Goliath, only I just want them both to win. You know what I mean?
So, who will win the stock wars? Well, the answers we seek are just outside of our reach for now, so we will have to wait a little bit longer to find out. But in the meantime, we can always add Astra and be like Brad Pitt.
So let me know what you think in the comments below. What is your biggest differences with Astra and Rocket Lab? Which one do you think is going to come out on top? And which one are you invested in, or if you're invested in both? And be sure to click the like button if you watched Astra's last launch and Rocket Lab's last launch.
Also, some breaking news in the Neutron development. Rocket Lab recently announced that on December 2nd at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, they will be unveiling some more information on Neutron. So be sure to check out that event on Rocket Lab at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And I will also be going over some more of what they reveal about Neutron in the next Space Day Saturday video. So be sure to stay tuned and to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next development with Neutron.
So until next time, live long and prosper.